And we have finally reached the final pose of today's class, the final inversion pose. This pose is called Halasana, or the Plough Pose. Now, yoga has a profound positive benefit for the glands in our body, those soft tissues in our body that secrete hormones that regulate a lot of the functions within the body. Now, this particular pose targets our thyroid and parathyroid glands, which are responsible for maintaining healthy energy levels within our body. Now, this pose really invites the flow of healthy oxygenated blood into our chest and neck and throat region, and is said to help people with shortness of breath, asthma, bronchitis, nasal dysfunctions, throat conditions and ailments. The list goes on. It also has a profound soothing effect on the nervous system and is prescribed for people who suffer from hypertension, irritability, shortness of breath, and nervous breakdowns. So it has a whole bouquet of goodness to it. So with that being said, let's get into this pose. Now, this pose is not as easy as the legs up the wall pose, so if you've never done this pose, I strongly suggest to have a bolster or a block. And I'm going to teach you the beginner version of this pose. And essentially, it starts by lying down on the floor with our lower back, our sacrum, this bone right here, right under your tailbone, firmly situated on the bolster. Now, with our head down on the floor, and you can already see that my head is lower than the heart, and my palms firmly planted to the sides, I'm going to raise the knees and bring them towards my chest as much as I possibly can. And this could be your halasana, your plough pose. You can stay like that, maybe bring your feet towards your sit bones and enjoying the firm support of the bolster or a block below you. Now, if you want to experiment a little bit more with this pose, you can extend your knees and see if you can start bringing the weight of your legs closer and closer to your head. Eventually, you'll be able to lift your pelvic region, your hips, off the floor and get a little bit more weight into the feet, but that's in the future. For now, just experiment with bringing the knees into your chest, then extending the knees, and then shifting the feet closer and closer towards your head until you reach over your head, and then can feel your lower body sort of starting to lift off the floor, naturally curving into a reverse forward fold, which is exactly what this pose is. So this pose can get really messy. It's not something that you can just get into, and it's strongly suggested that you do it at the end of your yoga practice. And in fact, it just occurs to me that I should mention it. If you have mastered the legs up the wall pose, then you can do this pose, the legs up the wall pose, without the wall, just like I'm doing it right now, but with the help of a bolster. And from that pose, it's a very simple transition to bring the knees into your chest, extending the knees until you have a nice lift off. Now, it is advisable to hold this pose between 30 to 90 seconds, and then you would slowly come out of this pose. So to come out of this pose, you want to reverse the motion, but the key thing here is to do it very, very slowly. So slowly, I like to call it vertebrae by vertebrae, shifting back into a lying position. So take your time to get into this pose and take your time to come out of this pose. Nothing in inversions And forward folds is done very fast. It's very slow going in and very slow coming out. Now, if you don't have a bolster and you only have a yoga block, you can do the same thing with a yoga block, although you have to work a little bit extra hard to find the support, but the idea remains the same. This yoga block and the bolster will provide nice firm support for you to experiment with the plough pose. And just like the other poses, once you're in that pose, let the gravity do the work. Let the gravity pull the legs down centimeter by centimeter, inch by inch. And then once you've had enough of it, slowly come out of this pose. And when you do come out of this pose, pause for a moment and notice any shifts in the way you feel in your body, in your mind, mentally, and emotionally. As I said, the inversion poses have a deep, profound effect on your internal perception. So, with that being said, let's get on to our homework.